The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is 11 o'clock, and so we're going to go ahead and get started on our webinar to discuss the countdown to Autodesk business model transformation. My name is Chris Fay. I'm the Vice President of TPM. I work out of our Greenville, South Carolina office, and along with me is Michael Sproles. He's our Director of Software Sales, working out of our Charlotte, North Carolina office. I have about a 20-minute presentation for you guys today, and hopefully should be fairly enlightening for those to help clarify what's going on with one of our major vendors, Autodesk. So before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you've not used GoToWebinar in the past, on the right-hand side of your screen you should have a little dialog box where you can either call in via telephone or utilize your computer, microphone, and speakers. Everybody is on mute, so don't worry if you're talking in the background. The rest of the crew can't hear you. Also in that dialog box you'll see an area that says questions, and so throughout the presentation feel free to submit questions. If we can answer them on a one-off basis, we'll do that throughout the presentation. Otherwise, we'll collect all of those questions and answer at the end of the presentation. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So very quickly today, I'm going to take you through a brief introduction of TPM for those that are not aware of our organization. And it should only take about a minute, and then we're going to really kind of dive deep into the Autodesk business model transformation, talk about a new announcement from Autodesk relative to a new product called Collections, and then really just recap some specific calls to actions that you all can take back to your businesses. So from TPM's perspective, we were founded in 1973. Right now, we were actually founded in Greenville, South Carolina, but we cover essentially the Carolinas down into parts of North Georgia, a little bit of Tennessee, and a little bit of Virginia. But that's really our stomping grounds, and we do that from 5 strategic office locations. As I mentioned before, our headquarters is in Greenville, South Carolina, but we do have offices in Columbia and Charleston, South Carolina, and then also have offices in Charlotte and the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina. Each of those offices has dedicated staffing, training facilities, technical staffing, and support. Each year we serve just a little over 3,000 customers. We do that with over 100 employees across the organization, and we're broken up into 4 strategic divisions, and I'll go a little bit more in depth in just a second. And we always like to just drop some keywords really about how we describe our organization. You know, we are a technology company, but all of our technology is only good as the service and the people that we have working for us, and that's why service and relationships are a huge part of our organization and will be into the future. And also there really is nobody like TPM out there that can provide the breadth of product offering and solutions that we do. So being very experienced, very unique and resourceful. And then obviously, you know, we're local. Each of our offices have local leadership, local decision making, local support and service, and that's a big benefit for our customers. So with that, our business is really broken up into 4 different divisions, and I'll very quickly go through this and then we'll dive into the details. So our first one is our Architecture, Engineering, Construction division. This is really where the business was started. Today, our AEC division is primarily made up of Autodesk design software. We work with companies like Bluebeam for PDF and collaboration technology. We do a lot in 3D laser scanning with a partner called Faro. And then all of this is really backed with service support, training, online training, consulting services to really make sure those solutions are being implemented properly inside of the AEC customer base. Very similar to AEC, we have a manufacturing division. So we are providing both Autodesk and SolidWorks 3D design software, a whole slew of 3D printing technology, 3D scanning technology into the manufacturing base. And if you combine those, that makes up a little more than half of our organization, and that's really where we're focused. We're focused on the design and building community. And then those are supported by 2 divisions. One is our Document and Print Solutions division, which is small format office copiers, wide format engineering plotters, and then a whole slew of document management software technology. The motto of that part of our business is do more, print less. And we're really one of the few hardware companies out there that are actually trying to reduce people's print volume. And so we do a lot of business inside of our AEC and manufacturing communities with document management. And then finally, we have our color graphics division called the Color Lab. Still traditional print, but trade show displays, job site signage, vehicle graphics, anything you can apply graphics to, we perform the printing and the installation. So that should give you a brief recap of our organization. Certainly happy to go into more detail at a later date. So with that, let's dive into the business model change. Really what we're wanting to do today is to make sure that each of our customers is fully aware and fully armed with all the facts that are out there relative to this business model change so that you guys and girls can make the right decisions for your business. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot to consider about what your current Autodesk portfolio looks like today. There's a lot to consider about what it looks like or will look like in the future. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you've got all the ammunition that you need to make the right decisions for your business. And really, that's why we're here. What Mike will go through in a bit is really what we're seeing across the industry from a software industry, really transitioning from a buy to a rental model. We see it with companies like Adobe. We see it with companies like Microsoft. I'm sure many of you either utilize cloud solutions or software as a service as a deliverable for your software and your business. So with that, I'm going to turn that over to Mike Sproles and let him really take us through the details of the transition and what you need to be aware of, and then I'll be back for some kind of key takeaways and action items, and we'll answer any questions. With that, Mike, turn it over to you, bud.
Thank you, Chris. So let's just dive right into it and talk about, the big question is, what is the Autodesk business model transformation? Simply put, Autodesk is transitioning to a model where all new software purchases for Autodesk products will be made under a subscription option only. Okay? As Chris mentioned before, this is something that Autodesk is doing to align themselves to the rest of the software industry. Big companies like Microsoft have already moved this way, Adobe's moved this way, and many others have moved this way. So it's part of just aligning themselves to the rest of the industry and the way a lot of customers are becoming accustomed to buying their software. Okay. Additionally, this really gives them the ability to serve their customers in a much more flexible arrangement. Okay. It gives them the ability to customers rather a lower cost of entry and more flexible options to bring in technology, to try new technology than we've had in the past. Okay. Now this transition has actually been going on for some time. But it's due to end July 31st. So the final date in this change is going to be at the end of July. So we're less than 60 days away now. But as we'll see here in the next slide, this has actually been in the works for quite some time. So this started way back in October of 2014 when Autodesk announced that within 12 to 24 months, they were going to eliminate new purchases of perpetual license. Now we'll talk about here in the next slide the difference between perpetual and subscription and what all that means. But they made this announcement to customers. They made it through partners like TPM, and they also made it to the investing community. So Autodesk, since that announcement, has been very vocal and very aggressive in trying to get the word out. And that's why we're here today, to make sure that even if you haven't heard it yet, there's still time to kind of understand what's going on. Okay. The next big milestone was July 31st of last year. They eliminated the discount on multi-year subscription, what is now called maintenance. Used to be in the past, if you did a 2 or 3 year maintenance contract, you could get a discount. As of July 31st of last year, that was gone away. The next big step was earlier this year, January 31st, which that was the last day to purchase standalone perpetual licenses. When I say standalone in this sense, I'm referring to individual products like Revit, AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Inventor, Navisworks. Basically, individual products that were not a part of a suite. Okay? Hopefully everybody is familiar with the difference between the individual products and suites. Because as of today, you can still buy suites as a perpetual license. However, July 31st will be the last day that you can purchase perpetual licenses for suites. That includes building design suites, infrastructure design suites, product design suites, Some of the others like factory design, plant design, entertainment design suite as well. So let's look at what the difference is between the perpetual model and the subscription model. So in the past, Autodesk sold under a perpetual model. Now we didn't call it perpetual, it was just because it was the only way you could buy Autodesk software. Anybody that's bought software from Autodesk over the last 25, 30 years, and really bought software from a lot of different vendors, this is how it was sold. You paid a large upfront fee to buy that license, and you owned it forever. Okay, you could use that license as long as you want in perpetuity, hence the term perpetual. You had the option to add maintenance on top of that, which most of you should be familiar. That's the part of it that allows you to maintain that software. You always have access to the latest release. You also have access to a lot of the cloud benefits and some other things. Now, it used to be called just subscription. Now we're calling that maintenance, okay? Today, we have the two options. So you can still buy, in the case of suites, the perpetual licenses, but we can also buy now under the subscription model, which is a term license. Now, it's got two different types of term licenses here, or subscription licenses. The only difference is where those products are deployed. They're both purchased the same. So desktop software, desktop subscription basically refers to products like Revit, Civil 3D, AutoCAD, and even the suites that are run on your local machine. Cloud subscription products are products like Collaboration for Revit, some of the SIM products, Recap is done on the cloud, InfraWorks, and some other products that are run on the cloud, not on your local machine. Okay. Now, subscription, as you see over here, some of the advantages, it's got a lower cost of entry. You pay only what you need when you need it, and it's scalable as well. Okay. As of July 31st, or rather after July 31st, the only option to buy software from Autodesk at that point is going to be under this subscription model. Okay. So on the next slide, we're going to dig a little deeper into what is subscription. So basically, as Chris said before, this is a rental model. Okay. Unlike the perpetual model where you bought to own, in the subscription model, you're going to be purchasing to rent. Okay. There are going to be multiple terms available. You can buy subscription terms of 1 month, a quarter, 1, 2, or 3 years. Okay, so you've got a lot of flexibility to purchase in whatever term length you want based on what you need. Okay, as I said before, products like the Revits, the AutoCAD, Civil 3Ds, Inventors, all those products that you were used to installing on your machine before will still be deployed on your local machine just like they are today. It's just going to, you will have to have internet access once every 30 days just to validate the license, but you can still run that locally. You don't have to be connected to the network all the time to use it, just like you have today. Now the cloud products, like we talked about, Collaboration for Revit, InfraWorks, some of these other products, those are cloud products, and obviously you will need to be able to access that to do that. However, you can access those products from whatever machine you want because they are cloud products. Okay. Now, in terms of purchasing, you're going to purchase your products the same way you do today. TPM is still going to be involved with you just the way we are today. We're not only here to help you purchase the initial terms, but we're going to be here to help you renew. And if you need to make any changes to your terms, because one of the benefits is at the end of that renewal process, if you rented for a quarter, you could renew for a quarter and do it again. Or you could say, hey, I like this. I want to do it for a longer term. You could renew for 3 years at that point if you want. Or if something happens, you can also scale back as well and say, I don't need it. I'm going to draw back and let that one drop, and you lose the access to that software. So what are some of the benefits to this model? Well, simply put, we've said this several times already, but it's the flexibility. Okay, you can scale up or down as you need, whether it's temporary hires like summer interns, or temporary staffing because you want a big project, or maybe things are slowing down, you don't need as much software, you can let that go. So you can scale up very quickly. You can also scale down very quickly as well. Okay. Lower total cost of ownership on projects. You know, you've got a lot of customers that are starting to look at billing back the cost of their technology against the project. Because we can do that now, because this really starts to transition a software purchase into the operating expense versus a capital expense. Gives you access to the latest technology. As long as you were on maintenance subscription under the Perpetual model, you always had the latest upgrades. The same here. While you're under the subscription model, you're always going to have access to the latest version that's available. You will still have access to prior versions as you do in the Perpetual model under maintenance, just the same way. Networking options are going to be available just like they were for Perpetuals. You have single user options and multi-user options. And then the last one, lower cost of entry for new technology. This is actually a really neat one that we haven't had before in the Perpetual model, but if there's new technology that you want to try out, you can do it at a much lower risk, because you can rent it for a month or a quarter, try it out, see if it's going to work for your organization. If it does, great. You then can commit to a longer term, or if it doesn't, let it go. The fact remains is you had a very low cost entry to try out for a short term rather than risking a lot of money for something that may or may not work out for you, which was, for a lot of customers, a big stumbling block for them bringing on new technology. Okay, now let's look at total cost of ownership over the long run. While we still have an option today, because like I said, you still can purchase Suite as a Perpetual license today, it's helpful to look at how does that shake out over, say, the next 10 years. So we put together a comparison based on today's pricing between a Perpetual license of Building Design Suite Premium and a desktop subscription license of the same product. So as you see here, the Perpetual license, as we said before, does have a higher entry point. It is going to be more expensive at the beginning than the desktop subscription model. However, if you fast forward your total cost of ownership over, say, 10 years, that Perpetual license does end up being the least expensive option compared to the subscription option. Okay, the break-even point tends to happen somewhere between that third and fourth year. So typically by the end of that fourth year term, if you had Perpetual licenses, you would start to come out ahead versus the subscription model. Okay, now what does that mean for you today while you still have an option? It would be good, and we have had a lot of customers do this. They look at their staffing that they're projecting over the next 12 to 24 months and say, if I'm going to hire 5, 10, 15 more people on a permanent basis, it may make sense for you to purchase that software now while you can under the Perpetual license to take advantage of that lower total cost of ownership, because once we go past July 31st, the only option is going to be the subscription model. Okay? Now, some of you may be looking to purchase technology today, and the question that may come up is, well, which way do I go today? There is an option. You know, what are some of the things I need to think about? So we did put together some things to kind of put in your head to kind of think about which way I should go. So looking at the subscription model, some things that we would kind of probably push you towards the subscription model today would be if you need one of the standalone products for maybe a project base, and that's it, subscription's great. So if I want to rent a project or a product rather for a project that maybe I only need that product for 3 months, rent it for a quarter. Things like Navisworks, maybe I need to do some coordination, but I don't do it that often, but I just need to do it for this one project. Great, rent it for a quarter. I might need to do some visualization. We're trying to win a project that we don't do this type a lot, but so I don't want to own it, but I can rent it for a short amount of time. Great. You know, things like collaboration for Revit, those are great to be able to tie back to a project. So those we would always say, you know, desktop subscription is a great option for those type of things. Again, temporary staffing. Well, you know, whether it's summer interns or a project that maybe you're not going to have you know that you're going to only hire for a short amount of time. You're not going to keep these guys permanently. Those are great ways to buy software for those people and not have to own it beyond the time that they're there. Okay. We talked about it already, testing new technology. I don't want to commit right now to a new technology, but I would like to try it at a very low risk. This is a great way to try it before you commit to something more long-term. Startups are great offers. So if you know someone who's starting up a company, we've had several of them do this already. Typically a new company, they don't have a lot of cash at the time. Okay, they're just getting started. This is a great way. They can rent the software for a short term until they get the business going and they get their cash flow up, and they can commit to a longer term at that point. Now, perpetual license, there's still some very valid options for that today. Like we talked about, if you're going to be hiring permanent staffing, whether it's today or in the near future, it would make sense for you to probably purchase that software now before the end of July to take advantage of that total cost of ownership. And again, if you want to invest in new technology now while you can and take advantage of that total cost of ownership on perpetual licensing, now's the time to do it, okay? So that's going to segue over to the next announcement we talked about, which was collections. This is a fairly recent announcement, and it's a new product offering that Autodesk has just announced that's going to be available later on in the fall. So collections is going to be another type of bundle from Autodesk. Okay, similar to suites that are available today, which everyone should be familiar. We've got 3 different types of suites for each suite. You know, you got standard, premium, and ultimate, and they're basically different bundles of software for a specific area. Autodesk is basically taking the next evolution of that, and they're moving to a bigger bundle. And as you see here, there's going to be 3 different collections, one for AEC, one for manufacturing, and one for the media and entertainment industries. And those are going to be available on August 1st. Now we'll talk about what that means. The collections, are going to be very similar to the suites in that they're bundling together a collection of various types of software in one bundle to give you easier access to it. Similar to the suites and other products, while because you're going to be under subscription, as these products evolve, you will always have access to the latest versions. You're also going to have access to the cloud benefits you do now with many of the suites. You're going to have access to flexible term lengths that we talked about earlier. And you will have access to a single and multi-user access for these products as well. Okay. So now we're going to talk about what is going to be available in each of these collections. So this is the AEC collection. And again, for comparison, it's helpful to point out there's only one AEC collection versus you could really count 9 different types of suites for the AEC industry previously. We had 3 building design suites, 3 infrastructure design suites, 3 AutoCAD design suites, and if you really wanted to get specific, we had other things like plant design suites that kind of fell into that market as well. So basically we're taking all of that and we're bundling it together into one collection, so regardless of what part of the AEC industry you're in, it's much easier for you to decide, hey, I just need the AEC collection, and you're going to get access to it, okay? The same thing for the manufacturing folks. You've got the product design collection. So many of the products that were involved in the product design suites, some in the factory design suites, plus a couple new ones, all that's going to be bundled into that product design collection. So you've got one option instead of multiple options, okay? Like I said, that was just recently announced in May. These products are going to be available August 1st, and at that time the suites will be discontinued. They haven't announced specifics necessarily, but it looks like the pricing is going to be comparable to the suites. And if you are on a suite today, that is going to be the easiest migration from a suite to a collection. If you are buying new software today, we would highly recommend that you buy it as a suite, because again, in the future, it's going to make it much, much easier. And in some cases, that migration may even be zero cost, depending on what it is, if you're on a suite. So that kind of concludes my part of the presentation. So at this point, I'm going to hand it back over to Chris and let him sum everything up, and then we'll pause for some Q&A. So Chris.
Great, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Good job in going through those details. I hope that answered a lot of questions for you guys. And so Mike went through this, but I kind of want to specifically bring everything back to some specific action items. We really have about 4 to consider. So number 1, with the change coming up on July 31st, 2016, as Mike spoke earlier, the best and the most cost-effective long-term solution for your software investment is to own perpetual licensing and keeping that on subscription or keeping that on maintenance. And so we have between now and July 31st to make those changes. So what we coach our customers in is to really consider permanent staffing levels for the next 3 years. If you're planning to bring on 5 people or 10 people or 2 people in the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to make better cost-effective sense to go ahead and purchase those perpetual licenses today, get them on maintenance, and then continue to maintain those assets throughout the year. We also talk a lot about standardization of licensing to suites. So the suites are the most flexible and complete offering. So if you have people using Revit, people using AutoCAD, people using other solutions, standardizing a suite is going to give you that ultimate flexibility. And then second in there is to consider networking. So networking is a great way to basically expand your assets across an organization. So in a standalone world, it's a one-to-one relationship. A single employee needs a single license. In a networking instance, you can have fewer licensing to more individuals. So you might have 3 licenses that are shared amongst 5 different individuals. It's a more cost-effective way to allocate your licensing. And then the second major thing is utilize desktop subscription where it makes sense. Mike went through and really talked about many of the applications. We talked about project applications. This is very applicable in the construction industry. If you're bringing on summer interns, if you need technology for short periods of time through temporary staffing, or new technology validation. You know, currently today what's available in many solutions is a 30-day trial. Oftentimes a 30-day trial does not give you the length of time to truly validate if technology is the right fit for your company. So being able to rent something on a single project need or a certain application for 3 to 6 months or even up to a year is going to be a much more cost-effective way to utilize subscription today. Now we know in the future this is the only way that we're going to be able to acquire technology, and there's still many pros to that as well. And then consider suites. So as we talked about collections, the easiest and most cost-effective way to migrate to a collection is going to be coming from a suite. So if collections that Mike went through earlier today has of interest to you, to really have access to almost the entire product offering relative to your industry, being on a suite today is going to really enable you to have the best and easiest, most cost-effective path to collections. So that's a consideration as you're looking at your portfolio today. And at the end of the day, look, we're covering a lot of information. I know there's a lot to consider, and we're asking you to really take a look at your business and how your business is set up and what it's going to look like in the future. And we don't expect you to do that alone. We would love to be here to help you, to help guide you and answer any questions that you may have. So I would always encourage you to reach out to your support team, to reach out to your sales team or the management team, and let us help answer questions and guide. Don't try and make decisions in a vacuum. So those are 4 kind of really key takeaways that we have. And so with that, we're going to take some Q&A for a few minutes and see if we can answer some questions for each of you folks. So as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, if you want to ask a question, you can go to the dialog box on the right-hand side and enter that question, and we can answer that. So I have a few questions coming in. We'll take these one by one.
Yeah, so it looks like the first question that came in was that it doesn't appear that these changes would affect those with suites on maintenance unless they're looking to add additional seats. That is correct. So I don't think we might not have said it, but if you have perpetual licenses today and you have them under maintenance, nothing will change for you guys. You can continue along, keep your maintenance up, and you will always have the same ability to use the software you have. You'll always have access to all the maintenance benefits. That's new versions, the cloud benefits, things like that. So that's not going to change. I would put a caveat in there, because there are no more upgrades available. If you choose not to renew that maintenance at any point, then your product will stop at that version. Now you can continue to use it, but you'll not be able to upgrade that or get back on maintenance at any other point. So if, for example, you have perpetual licenses that are on maintenance subscription today, that's at version 2017. Say your renewal's September, and you chose in September not to renew, then your software will be locked in at 2017. Continue to use it for as many years as you want, but you'll always be stuck at 2017. If 3 years from there you want to go up to version 2020 or whatever they decide to call at that point, you'll have to then purchase new term licenses under the subscription model. Okay? So let's see, the next question. We already purchased the suites and pay for many other items we don't use now. The collections appear to have many more features. This is a great question, actually, and I meant to bring this up, but I forgot. In the long run, what is the projected cost for rentals of the collection? I would assume this will be costly for a small firm. So what we've been told now, and everything will be final August 1st, but the pricing for a collection is going to be very comparable, if not the same, as what a pricing is for a premium suite today. Okay, so it's actually going to be fairly affordable when you compare it to what people are doing today. The other thing is, if you use two products, you've already made financial sense to go to either a suite or a collection. Okay, if I were, and here's a good example, if I were to use, say, Revit and Navisworks, okay, you look at the collection, yeah, there's a lot of other stuff in there that I may not need at the moment, but if all I'm using is Revit and Navisworks, which we do have a lot of customers doing that, it still makes better financial sense for me to get a collection because it's going to be less expensive than buying those two products separately. Okay? Now, once you have the collection, you would have access to that other software, so you could start trying out some other technology that you need. But I don't want the completeness of those collections to scare anybody away from them, because from a cost standpoint, it's actually going to be very cost effective for even small firms to get into a collection, because we do have even small firms, many firms that use multiple products. So if you use more than two or more, a collection is going to be the way to go. Let's see, what will be the cost upgrade from the suites to collections in the future? That hasn't been announced yet, but it will be announced prior to August 1st. But what we've been told is the suites are going to be the best way to migrate to a collection. So I would imagine that they're going to offer some very low cost or very easy to do migrations from suites to a collection. But we won't know that for sure until that pricing is available, and we don't have it yet today. But we should have it before August 1st. Again, what I would recommend is reach out to your sales rep, stay in contact with them, and as we do get that information, they can get back to you and let you know what to expect. Let's see, here's another question. If we are currently using only Civil 3D and basic AutoCAD from the Perpetual licenses, are there any reasons we need to consider switching to the suites? So that's a question that's going to depend probably on your specific needs. I would probably say it would be worth a discussion to have. As I said before, using two products, typically at that point it makes sense to make that move. While Perpetual licenses are still available, you may want to do that. From a civil standpoint, if you're using Civil 3D, there are other products in the suites that do play in that space. Thinking off the top of my head, something like InfoWorks is one. Something like Raster Design is another one. There's Navisworks in the suite. So there's multiple other products that if we were to sit down and talk to you, we may be able to see, do any of those fit in your workflow? So what I would recommend, if you have a question of that nature, get in touch with your sales rep and let's have a conversation, and we can look at what you have today and see if there are areas that other products in the suites can help you.
And Mike, the thing I would also add to that is depending on the number of seats for this particular customer, there's also an opportunity as you network those, each suite would have access to both Civil 3D and AutoCAD and all the other solutions. So one of the licenses could be using AutoCAD at the time, the other one could be using Civil 3D at the time, and vice versa. So it really allows you to kind of ebb and flow the utilization of those suites, instead of, if you have, let's say, 2 Civil 3D seats and 2 basic AutoCAD seats, and all of a sudden you have a third user that needs the other solution. The suite's going to enable you to have that flexibility to pull those licenses that you wouldn't currently have with the standalone perpetuals.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a good point. A couple more questions here. Here's a question. We've already purchased the perpetual licenses and maintenance. They've downloaded the software from the website, but they would like to get hard copies of that software. So this is a good question, and actually it doesn't necessarily relate to the model change, but it's good for everyone to know. Autodesk does not give hard copy media with their software anymore like they used to, but it is still available. So any customer can order what they call a media kit for any of the products they own. So if you have a suite, you can order a media kit for that suite, and you'll actually get the hard copy version of that. Those media kits are typically $40. You can talk to your TPM rep, and they can help you get that. But it's a non-serialized media kit, meaning that if you have multiple serial numbers, you don't need a media kit for each one. That media kit will work for all of them. Okay. It's basically you just install it on wherever you need it and just use the appropriate serial number for that machine. But that's $40. It's called a media kit. You can call your rep and ask for that. Are programs like Revit available a la carte through subscription? And the answer is yes. That is still available right now. And it looks like it will continue to be available, so you can still get Revit in some of the what we call the either point products or standalone products themselves, or a collection or suite. After August 1st, it will just be a collection at that point. And I did get a note in from one of our sales reps, actually our sales manager on the AEC side, who stated that this relates to a question we had earlier, that evidently it looks like it has been announced that in October there will be a free migration from Premium and Ultimate suites. So if you are a suites owner or you have suites and they're Premium or Ultimate, it sounds like you're going to have a free migration to go to the collections. Now I do want to make a caveat. That is for suites that are under subscription, not perpetual. Okay? Because the collections, as they start in August, are only going to be available under the subscription model, so there will not be a, quote, perpetual version of that. So if you have a Premium or Ultimate suite under the subscription model, as we do have some people with that now, they will get that free migration to the collection. One more question that just came in. Does the collection offer use of older versions of software? So the answer to that is yes. Any of the subscription-based model products, whether it's an individual product or suite or a collection, when they come out, you will still have access to prior versions, 3 versions back, just like you have today. So 2017 is the current version today. You would have access to 2016, 2015, and 2014. Okay? So that benefit will still be available to you, as will home use and the other benefits that many of you enjoy as maintenance or subscription customers today. So that was the last question we have. We're glad to hang on for a few more minutes if there's anybody else, but we did record this. We are going to post this. So if you do have any other questions after this webcast, please reach out to us, reach out to your sales rep. We'll be glad to sit down and look at your situation specifically and help you figure out what's the best path for me. So, Chris, do you have anything you want to add before we adjourn?
No, I just hope this was helpful for the team, and just making sure and reinforcing what Mike said, that we're here to help, and hope that you'll reach out so we can discuss. So hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to chatting with you soon. Thanks to all.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. And at that point, we will end the webcast. Thank you and have a good day.